Okay, I'm assuming you can hear me. Test, 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 test. Yeah. Okay. Well, hello. Welcome to the fall semester. And I guess COVID 3.0, maybe at this point. Luckily, it will not affect this class in any ways. So, because we're asynchronous. I'm sorry, this is welcome video for EDCI 503. Hopefully this won't take too long. So I'm going to share an outline. Here we go. Okay, there it is. This is my welcome video notes. If you have not received an email from me earlier today with a little welcome talking about the books, let me know. And because the syllabus is attached to that email, should be down. You may have to scroll down to the bottom of that announcement on that email. I think I've got all the dates straight. The one thing that is still somewhat tentative is the assignment software. We have moved from Portfolium to Watermark. Any of you who remember LiveText, that was a Watermark product. Oh, good, it's raining. I've been waiting for it to rain. We now have something called VIA. I am just getting into it. Hopefully by the weekend, I'll have the links in Moodle for all those assignments, and I will let you know. Please go over the syllabus. I am having office hours. I have a 3 o'clock class on Thursdays, 3 to 4:30. So particularly if you're in Thibodaux and you want to come by and see me, then that's a good time. If you're, and we can set up an appointment at 4:30. Particularly for the higher ed students, you can come at any time of my office hours if you're on campus and you're available, because we will want to sit and talk, particularly about your approach, since most of you clearly are not going to be classroom teachers, and how this applies. It is important, however, that you understand something about K-12 curriculum, because all great curriculum changes, developments that have occurred, particularly through the 20th century, and to some degree today, now in the 2 decades into the 21st century, or because of changes, they either affect K-12 schooling or because of K-12 schooling. So there is an interrelationship. Those of you who are also in 504, you will or have taken 504 already. You read Klebard's work and you already get a sense of that. This course is really about what one might call reflective practice. it would be better said to be thoughtful praxis. You'll get some uh, some things on information on praxis in the Ioki reading, although that's our last of the 4 first readings. Okay, so it's that praxis is an important concept. We'll just leave it at reflective practice. You basically, I don't see theory and practice as especially in education to be two very different things. To think about one's practice is to engage in theory. To implement one's theory is to engage in practice. Okay, we think about things all the time. And if we're, and this, sometimes this involves data, sometimes it involves intuition, sometimes it involves experience. So experience is a different form of data, and I would suggest intuition is a different form of data. Then you think about it, and you think about how it, how you can change your practice, particularly in terms of curriculum development. And largely what this class is about is to think about curriculum development, particularly in a time when curriculum is becoming more and more prescriptive because of the test. Okay. We think if we get if we teach everybody the exact same thing at the exact same pace at the exact same time, that they'll do better in the test. And I will attest to you now that that is not the way the human mind or brain works. Okay. And I think all of the readings, the first 4 readings, Harvey, Dahl, Huebner, and Ioki, will give you insight into that. I also have a discussion forum set up because your first assignment is to either view or read the links that are in topics 1 and 2 in Moodle. Okay. This is to give you a larger curriculum background. You're going to quickly learn the curriculum is not the standards or the piece of paper you're given to teach. Okay. And there's a discussion forum, and the syllabus has a question that I'd like you to discuss from the forum. Use as a basis of your discussion in the forum. You can go beyond that. Okay, you don't have to use it, but at least it's a beginning point. Okay. All 4 of these first readings have a relationship with me. And the first reading is about a 16th and 17th century scholar, arts master of rhetoric at the University of Cambridge in England. And it gives you, its basic point is to get you to begin thinking about curriculum in a more personal way, particularly in terms of your students. Dahl will challenge you. Dahl was my major professor. Unfortunately, he's passed away now 3 years. I think it'll be 3 or maybe 4 this Christmas. Great influence on me. The name of the piece is Keeping Knowledge Alive. There's nothing more moribund or morose as a prescriptive curriculum, I would suggest. So, and with both the Harvey reading and the Dahl reading, You are going to begin getting some ideas and concepts from Alfred North Whitehead, who is again a Cambridge scholar, several generations after Harvey, and wrote in the beginning part of the 20th century a set of essays on education, dealing directly with the English experience at the university at that time, but they're very much applicable to today. Huebner also refers to Whitehead, sorry, in his piece on, it's basically, the title is Religious Metaphors in the Language of Education. So he's providing you, again, not just a different way to think about curriculum, but a different way to think about what we do when we educate, rather than what we do if we merely school. So he differentiates between schooling and education, which I also do, as does Dahl. And in his own way, so does Harvey. Finally, Aoki, I'm asking you to read 2 chapters, chapters 2 and 4. They're related. I only want you to write 1 gloss. Oh, I'll have to come back to the glosses. From the 2, because they're interrelated. The second chapter is about situational practice as a form of implementation of curriculum. And then chapter 4 is about evaluating curriculum from that in other perspectives. Okay, they're not very long, but they're very informative. Glosses is your initial writing. I'll spend some time talking about the glosses. Basically, it's a 2-page critical analysis of the reading. Okay, and you base that criticism on your own experience. Okay, so it could be your experience in classrooms, it can be experience in workplaces, it can be experience in readings that you've done. Compare these readings to the things that you're doing in your school, which you've read for professional development, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, I don't want you to summarize, nor do I, in a gloss, nor do I want you to quote a lot, paraphrase, and reflect. Okay, I want to hear your voice, if you will. Sound like an English teacher there, which I've never been. Okay. Oh, I take that back. I was briefly a middle school ELA teacher for 6 weeks, substitute. But anyway, it was a great learning experience. Learned a lot about myself. Okay. There are 2 books in their discussion boards for both books. Those prompts for those discussion boards are not up. James Paul G., What Video Games Have to Teach Us About Learning and Literacy. I think you'll find this book surprising. G is a science educator. He develops science curriculum. And like many of us, like I did, he had a son who played video games, watched him play, and thought about it a lot. So what he's basically suggesting to you is it's a way to think about curriculum. In addition to the book, there are some videos from a set of lectures he did, must be at least 10 or 15 years ago, but they're still pertinent in Australia. I want to say Melbourne, but I haven't looked at that. The other book, and of course the G book is relatively cheap on ABE Books, abebooks.com. It's a good little book to have, particularly for any of you who are science educators. But I would say social studies as well, math, English, all of you. The Jardine, Frazan, and Clifford book, Curriculum in Abundance. They argue that much of our curriculum, and certainly the curriculums that we're dealing with locally, are curriculums of scarcity, okay? They're not curriculums in abundance. These are three, these were all actually students of IOKI. They've written and have presented with Mo Vidal and Hubner. Got to know them at conferences. They're Australian, I'm sorry, not Australian, they're Canadian, and they have a very practical take on curriculum, particularly in trying to get us to think abundantly. And so all of these readings are interrelated in one way or another, okay, in terms of ideas, okay? So finally, the two projects. There are guidelines in Moodle on both these projects. The easier one is the vision. See the dates for all these assignments in the syllabus. The vision, the guidelines for the vision are basically 4 statements. You want to write a paragraph on each of the statements. The last statement about philosophy or theory is important. Okay, too many people tend to leave it out. The curriculum evaluation project or curriculum compacting project. The guidelines too are in Moodle. Have some examples, I think. Yeah, still do. And this is your final project that will be due, obviously. I believe first day of finals is December 2nd. So it'll be due December 2nd. Please stay with the dates for the assignments. Try to keep up as best you can. Don't think, well, I can get a couple of these knocked out on a weekend. Please don't approach it that way. If things come up, please let me know. Keep me informed of your life, particularly as it pertains to being able to get the work done. So the due dates are not deadlines per se, but it's best for you to keep to those as closely as possible. The absolute drop dead date is the Thursday before, when grades are due. So it's if Thursday, if the 3rd's a Thursday, December 3rd, then it's a week later. So I think that's the 10th. Don't quote me. Okay, that's everything I needed to talk about. And more will be coming. So I will stop sharing. And again, please don't hesitate. If you see something and it's unsettling to you, if there's a quandary, if there's a confusion, as Piaget would say, if there's some disequilibrium in your thinking, email me, okay? Or you can text me if it's an emergency. But tell me who you are and what class you're in. Whenever you email me or text me, just say, I'm Miss So-and-so or Mr. So-and-so, blump, blump, blump. And then don't tell me the class. Okay, so take care.